Salam, all opinions are my own, and in the end, only God knows best. It's Canadian election season again on the federal level, and this means that you'll be seeing a lot of supporters of the more centrist party, the Liberals, screaming at the supporters of the more left-wing party, the NDP, and vice versa, about who to vote for and why. Why they do this instead of focusing on the extreme right-wing party of the Conservatives is because of our winner-take-all, first-past-the-post election system. You see, what happens fairly regularly is that the more centrist party and the more left-wing party split the vote, and that allows the more right-wing party to get more votes in a riding and win the district. The frustrating thing about this is that Justin Trudeau promised to fix it and then broke that promise. This is the story of how that happened. The story begins in 2011. That's when the leader of the Conservative Party, Stephen Harper at that time, won about 40% of the vote, got more than 50% of the seats, and won 100% of the power to do with whatever he wanted for the next 4 years. This is actually one of the most common outcomes of a winner-take-all, first-past-the-post election, which is another one of the problems with it. By 2015, the Conservatives had done a lot of things that had made them incredibly unpopular in Canada, and people were asking the question about how they were able to do whatever they wanted, even though the majority of the population was incredibly opposed to their policies. The answer that Canadians came to was that the election system had given Stephen Harper too much power. And Canadians were ready for a change. As somebody who, by that time, had been campaigning for proportional representation in Canada for about 8 years, let me tell you, that is the closest that Canada has come to actually reforming the absurd system that we have. And Justin Trudeau, who was the new leader of the Liberal Party at that time, took advantage of that deep desire for a change and a deep desire to prevent anything like that ever happening again by promising that 2015 would be the last first-past-the-post election in Canada. Based on the strength of that promise, among others, he convinced Canadians that he was the best place to defeat Stephen Harper, and he got around 40% of the vote, more than 50% of the seats, and 100% of the power. Which meant that just like Stephen Harper, and because of the Canadian tradition of being very deferential to the party leader, Justin Trudeau was in complete charge of what would happen to his promise. So what did he do? Well, he set up a special committee to study electoral reform, and he, to his credit, assigned members of parliament to the committee that weren't majority Liberal. And so the committee did its work over 4 months or so, had a lot of citizen submissions, had a lot of expert testimony, had a lot of town halls, and 87% of the citizen submissions supported proportional representation, a system of, or a general family of election systems that try to ensure that if you get around 40% of the vote, you get around 40% of the seats and don't have an unearned majority of power. And 88% of the expert testimony also supported proportional representation. If Justin Trudeau actually cared about evidence-based decision making, then that's it. It's an open and shut case. Vast majority of everybody wants proportional representation. He has a mandate for it based on his election promise. Why not get it done? Well, the Liberal members of Parliament on the special committee started acting incredibly weird. They were asking questions that seemed to be designed to debunk all the testimony in favor of proportional representation, and it got so bad that when the committee published its final results, its final report, the Liberal MPs of the committee didn't even sign on to the main recommendation for proportional representation, and in fact they added a supplementary report, kind of a minority opinion, which ignored all of the evidence in favor of proportional representation and just said, hey, let's not do anything. In fact, it got so bad that the minister in charge of the committee and in charge of democratic renewal was doing such a bad job of attacking the report that she had to be shuffled out of the committee entirely to save face. There was a whole bunch of other weird stuff that the Liberal Party was doing at this time until finally Justin Trudeau came out, said, I don't like this. It's my promise to break. I'm going to break this promise. In so many words. And he did. And that ended the prospect of proportional representation in Canada for, well, it's 2025 now, so at least a decade, and possibly much longer. So, why did he do this? Well, he finally admitted that the reason he did this was he was never in favor of proportional representation, and he misled Canadians about that during the election campaign, and in fact preferred some other system, which he called ranked ballot. Now, ranked ballot is a very confusing way, perhaps deliberately so, way of describing a system, because a ranked ballot is not a system, it's just a part of a system. What he is actually advocating for is known much more popularly and much more accurately as either alternative vote, preferential voting, or instant runoff voting. Most descriptively, it's instant runoff voting. And the thing about that is that, just like first past the post, it's a winner-take-all system, and it had very, very few proponents in the whole of the special committee. But Justin Trudeau didn't care. He had his mind made up, and that was it. His reasons for preferring instant runoff voting are things that have no evidence or backup. In fact, instant runoff voting is only used by one other big country, Australia, for its House of Representatives, and if anything, Australian politics is more divisive than Canadian politics. Unlike Justin Trudeau's belief that instant runoff voting is somehow leads to more civil politics than first past the post or proportional representation would. It's nonsense. If you want to read more about this in depth and see all of my sources for all of my claims here, you can find my site, link in my bio, and find my blog from the 3rd of March 2025, where I write about this in detail. So what happens next? Well, we'll see what happens with the Canadian election in the end of April. But I have to be honest, seeing how Canada has covered for the State of Israel as it accelerates its genocide of the Palestinian people, I am feeling very checked out. I don't know who I'll vote for. I am thankful that I don't have to even think about voting for Justin Trudeau anymore, because of not only this, but also another thing that he said near the end of his tenure, and I'll try and have a video about that. So I guess this is part 1 of my goodbye to Justin Trudeau. Bye.